October 29, 2001, 5:20, Spokane, Washington. A motion camera on Lakeview Terrace captures a figure stepping off a porch, then static. 22-year-old Marin was supposed to text her sister at 5:30. She did not. Calls rolled to voicemail. What happened between 5:20 and dusk on a street where everyone knew each other? In 6 days, a strange odor will force a door to open. 16 years later, a courtroom will revisit the record and ask why this began at all. The clock stopped. Someone kept moving inside that quiet house. Neighbors remember routine. Marin parked her bike by the steps at 5:05. She set her backpack inside the entryway, locked the deadbolt, and turned back. A cashier later confirmed a card purchase at 4:47, 3 blocks away. The timestamp held. Her phone pinged a tower near 29th Avenue at 5:19. Then it went still. She lived 2 houses from her parents. Her sister Jenna looked out from their kitchen window at 5:32. No one on the sidewalk, no movement at the curb. The first call to Marin came at 5:33. The second at 5:41. At 6:10, Renee Cole called again, left a short message, and stepped outside. Porch lights clicked on up and down the block. A neighbor across the street mentioned a sour smell near an upstairs vent the night before, then waved it off. People began to walk the park perimeter in pairs. One man checked the storm drains with a flashlight. He found leaves and dark water, nothing else. At 7:02 p.m., someone dialed 911. The report was brief and exact. Last seen near the front steps around 5:20. Female, 22, 5'6", navy windbreaker, gray tee. Officers canvassed houses, requested camera access, and marked a narrow window of risk. A grocery delivery record at 5:28 placed a van 30 yards from Marin's porch. The driver saw an upstairs light turn off, then on. The window pointed toward a single property line and a set of stairs. The search would spread outward by morning, but the answer was not outside. It was within reach, behind one door, the entire time.
Marin Cole was 22, born in Yakima, raised in Spokane, and steady about almost everything. She worked part-time at a music store on South Hill and took evening classes at Spokane Falls. Her paycheck hit direct deposit every other Friday. She ran the same 3-mile loop on Manito streets starting around 6:15 a.m. Her friends said she liked predictable routes and clear plans. She lived 2 doors from her parents, Edward and Renee, who checked in by text most nights after dinner. Her older sister, Jenna, lived with them and kept a shared calendar on the fridge. The family ate together on Sundays at 6 p.m. They missed one dinner in late October. That mattered. Marin's phone records showed brief calls with her best friend, Lara Nguyen, at 12:41 p.m. and 3:06 p.m. on October 29, 2001. She bought strings and a tuner at a shop on 29th Avenue at 4:47 p.m., verified by receipt and a cashier login. Neighbors knew her as polite and quick to help. She borrowed a ladder for a smoke alarm once and returned it the same hour. She kept her bike locked to the front rail, seat scuffed on the left. Officers photographed the scuff the week before she vanished during a different call for service on the block. It was still there after she was gone. The street itself was close-knit. The Hart family lived directly across. Melissa and Stephen both worked split shifts. Their son Evan, 19, kept birds in a second-floor room and wore headphones most nights. People waved, traded tools, and watched each other's porches on snow days. That sense of routine would feed a belief that nothing serious could happen here without someone noticing. The case would challenge that belief. Jenna described Marin as independent but reachable. Missed calls were rare. Renee saved every voicemail. Edward reminded his daughters to log morning runs and locked the deadbolt twice. They were cautious people with short lists and firm habits. The camera coverage on the block was limited to a few doorbells and one motion sensor across the street. That sensor held a few seconds that would matter later. If you follow reopened cases and careful timelines, subscribe and stay with us. We will show you how small habits mark the edge of a crime scene, and why one upstairs light went off, then on at 5:28 p.m.
Jenna stepped onto the porch at 5:32 p.m. and saw Marin's bike still locked to the rail. The front door was shut. The entry light was on. A grocery van idled briefly at 5:28, according to the driver's handheld log. He noted an upstairs light across the street turning off, then on, within 10 seconds. Jenna called at 5:33. No answer. She called again at 5:41. Voicemail. At 6:02, Renee dialed Marin and left a 12-second message. Edward walked the sidewalk to the corner and back. He saw no backpack, no tire tracks, no dropped keys. At 6:18, the motion camera across the street recorded two figures passing the curb and then returning. Investigators later identified them as neighbors searching with flashlights. At 6:24, Lara texted, "You home?" The text showed delivered, not read. At 6:27, Jenna phoned Lara and asked her to drive over. By 6:35, 3 porches were lit. Melissa Hart paused on her steps, rubbed her neck, and mentioned a sour smell near the upstairs vent the previous night. She blamed the birds. Stephen Hart nodded and went back inside. At 6:41, Edward checked the park edge with a small flashlight. He looked into a storm drain and saw leaves and standing water. Nothing moved. A city bus passed the intersection at 6:44. Its windshield camera later captured a still frame of Marin's block with no visible activity. Renee called 911 at 7:02. The dispatcher took down clothing, height, and last known location. Patrol cars arrived at 7:14 and began a door-to-door canvass. Officers asked for access to doorbell video, checked side yards, and requested permission to view basements and garages. Between 7:30 and 8:10, neighbors formed informal teams. They walked the school track, checked dumpsters, and called her name. An officer entered the Hart home briefly at 7:52, stood in the hallway, and spoke with Melissa about their son's schedule. The officer noted a faint odor, assumed pet cages, and left. By 8:30, patrol marked the time window between 5:20 and 5:40 as the most critical. They did not find signs of a struggle outside, no drag marks, and no clothing. At 9:05, Jenna placed Marin's spare key on the kitchen counter and said she would have answered by now. The block kept searching, but the key detail was already upstairs behind a single bedroom door.
By morning, Spokane police set a command post at the community center on 29th Avenue. Detectives divided Lakeview Terrace into sectors and logged door knocks. They pushed outward in quarter-mile rings. At 8:10 a.m., a search team cleared the school track and adjacent dumpsters. Nothing matched Marin's clothing description. At 9:02, the department requested cell site analysis from the carrier. The last definitive ping stayed near 29th and Southeast Boulevard at 5:19 p.m. The phone showed no movement after that. That pointed them back to the block. Crime scene techs rechecked porches, railings, and the sidewalk for transfer marks. They found no drag patterns, no blood, and no scuffed grass. A canine unit worked from Marin's front steps at 10:07. The dog tracked across the street, paused near the Hart property line, and lost scent at the curb. Weather had turned cold. Odor dispersion was low. Detectives noted the detail and kept moving. 6 households were flagged for extended interviews based on proximity and line of sight. The Harts were on that list. Melissa Hart worked a hospital shift. Stephen Hart split delivery routes. Their son, Evan, 19, said he studied with headphones on from 5 to 7:30. He kept birds in the upstairs room. He agreed to a walkthrough and answered brief questions. His answers were short and consistent. An officer recorded a faint smell on the second floor and wrote "likely pet cages" in the field notes. Another neighbor volunteered for a polygraph on day 2 and showed deception on timing questions. Detectives pressed him on a claimed errand between 5:15 and 5:40. He produced a receipt time-stamped 6:02 from a station 2 miles away. That cleared him for the critical window. The polygraph result became irrelevant when the paper trail held. By late afternoon, the FBI offered grid search support and a forensic specialist for digital media. Agents pulled the 520 clip from across the street and enhanced frames for clothing contrast. The figure appeared to be Marin stepping down, then a static burst. They also subpoenaed grocery van GPS and verified the 528 brief stop. The driver again stated he saw an upstairs light flick off, then on. Detectives marked a narrow hypothesis. The event began indoors, not outside. One room across the street now demanded a slower, tighter look.
On the morning of November 4, Melissa Hart decided to clean her son's room before work. She had noticed a sour odor upstairs for 2 days. At 9:11 a.m., she stripped bedding from a waterbed and saw a dark wet spot on the plywood frame. The bed edge was shifted, screws misaligned. When she lifted the corner, the frame resisted. A thin sock was caught between slats. Melissa stepped back, went downstairs, and flagged an officer posted on the block. At 9:21, 2 patrol officers entered with Melissa's consent and stopped at the bedroom threshold. A crime scene tech followed and photographed the room from the doorway. They noted caged birds by the window, a desk chair angled toward a computer, and a missing drawer pull. On the nightstand lay a missing flyer from Marin with a note in blue ink, time-stamped from a copy shop. The tech logged the odor, recorded the misaligned frame, and asked for tools. At 9:38, the frame was lifted 2 inches. The tech saw fabric compressed against the slats and a metallic edge consistent with the folded knife. He stopped the search, secured the room, and called detectives. At 9:52, detectives arrived, read consent again, and expanded the scene. They recovered a pocket knife with a partial serial, an aluminum bat under the desk, and cleaning wipes inside a tied trash bag. A faint bleach smell came from the bathroom hall. A receipt fragment dated October 27 was found in the trash with the wipes. At 10:26, latent print powder revealed smears on the knife handle and partial ridge detail on the bat. A small spatter pattern was visible on the underside of the bed frame, not on the carpet. The window track showed recent movement and dust disturbance. A plastic bin contained zip ties, unopened. Detectives marked each item, photographed placement, and sealed evidence bags with time and initials. A second officer logged that the upstairs light switch faced the hall, not the bed. By 10:41, the scene was fully secured. Detectives informed the family across the street that a significant discovery had been made. Edward and Renee waited on their porch steps with Jenna, who held Marin's spare key. From that point, the investigation no longer treated Lakeview Terrace as a general search grid. It treated one upstairs room as the origin point and the clock as an accomplice that had run out. One serial number on the knife would send the case in a new direction.
The room was sealed. Technicians lifted the waterbed frame in stages and documented each step. A medical examiner arrived at 11:12 a.m. and confirmed a female adult. The ID came from a driver's license in a canvas wallet recovered beneath the slats. The name matched. Marin, age 22. Detectives paused to notify command and then resumed processing. They photographed compression marks along the underside rails. Fibers from a Navy windbreaker were trapped in 2 screws. A gray t-shirt lay bunched near the headboard support. There were no obvious drag marks on the carpet, no transfer stains on the hallway threshold. The scene suggested the event began and ended inside the room.
A bleach odor was strongest near the bathroom door, not near the bed. A pocket knife with a folding blade rested against the frame. Its partial serial showed 3 legible digits. A bat leaned under the desk with dust wiped in a clean arc. On the nightstand, the missing flyer for Marin held a smudge of lotion and a pen impression from the word search. The window track carried a fresh scrape across settled dust. A lattice screen outside showed a loose staple at the top corner. No footprints appeared on the exterior sill. The examiner conducted a preliminary assessment on scene. They noted blunt force trauma indicators and sharp injury patterns. No graphic details were recorded in the public log. Time since death was estimated within a 6-day window, consistent with the odor timeline. A ring from Marin's right hand and a small pendant were collected and bagged. There was no separate wallet or cash in view beyond the canvas holder. Latent print powder revealed partial ridge detail on the bat and an indistinct smear on the knife pivot. Swabs were taken from the blade, the bed slats, and the window latch. A plastic bin contained unused zip ties and a roll of duct tape. Both were still sealed at purchase points. A bathroom trash bag held wipes with light staining and a receipt fragment dated October 27th. The fragment listed a discount grocer 3 miles away. By 12:06 p.m., detectives briefed the family liaison and prepared the removal. The house was quiet except for the birds. Across the street, Jenna stared at the upstairs window and said nothing. The next answers would have to come from the people who lived here.
Detectives separated the hearts in their living room at 11:28 a.m. Melissa described the odor first noticed late October 30. She said it was stronger on November 1. She blamed pet cages and air vents. Stephen reviewed his delivery stops and produced a handwritten route sheet. He said he was home by 6:05 p.m. on October 29. He did not see Marin that evening. He heard nothing unusual. Evans sat at the kitchen table. He agreed to an interview and a consent search. He said he studied with headphones on from 5 to 7:30. He claimed he never left his room. He said he owned the bat for backyard practice. He denied using the pocket knife recently. He said the birds were loud and messy. He apologized for the smell. He said he turned his light off at 5:25 to rest his eyes. He said he turned it back on a minute later. The grocery driver's statement matched that timing. At 12:12 p.m., detectives transported Evan to the public safety building. He signed a Miranda form. He repeated the same timeline. He said he saw Marin sometimes on the block, but not that day. He said he had no reason to harm her. He said he did not know why her flyer was on his nightstand. He said he took one from a stack near the search post. Across the street, Jenna recorded a formal statement at 12:40 p.m. She described 2 unanswered calls and the 12-second voicemail. She said Marin would never ignore both parents. She said the bike position at 5:32 was wrong by a few inches. Renee confirmed the family's Sunday routine and Marin's weekday habits. Edward said he checked the drains and the park edge at 6:41. He repeated that there were no marks on the sidewalk. Investigators collected indirect sources. They downloaded doorbell clips from 3 homes. They copied the bus windshield video at 2nd and Southeast. They saved the driver's handheld log showing the 5:28 stop. They photographed the Hart hallway and staircase. They took swabs from the window latch and bed slats. They seized the bat and the knife with the partial serial. The first interview produced a clean story that left the room unchanged. The objects on the evidence table did not. One fragment of the knife's serial still needed a manufacturer match.
Detectives mapped Evan Hart's timeline against the physical record. His account placed him at his desk with headphones on from 5 to 7:30 p.m. The room told a different story. The window track bore a fresh scrape through settled dust. The exterior lattice showed a loose staple at the top corner. There were no footprints on the sill, but the inside latch carried a new smear. The bat under the desk had dust swiped in a clean arc. The knife lay against the frame with a partial serial. Cleaning wipes in the hall trash bag smelled of bleach. A receipt fragment dated October 27th matched a discount grocer 3 miles away. Cell site data held Marin's last ping at 5:19 near 29th and Southeast. No later movement. The K9 track crossed to the Hart property line and died at the curb. Outside surfaces showed no drag patterns and no scuffed grass. If something happened, it began indoors. Evans said he turned his light off at 5:25, then on a minute later. The grocery driver's statement matched that flicker. It put attention on one upstairs switch and a narrow window of time. Digital forensics added new friction. Router log showed Evans' desktop online at 4:51, then idle from 5:17 to 5:43. The audio driver registered a device change at 5:24, consistent with headphones unplugging. The system clock aligned with the motion camera's 5:20 clip across the street. A browser tab with adult material was open in the background, last active earlier that afternoon. None of it proved intent. It chipped at his story of uninterrupted study. Evans' hands were photographed. No obvious injuries were visible. He gave prints and buckle swabs. He explained the bat as a backyard habit and the knife as a cheap tool. He said he bought wipes for birdcage cleanup. He said the receipt fragment could be his mother's. Melissa's schedule placed her at work on October 27th until late afternoon. Stephen's route sheet showed deliveries on the north side that day. The receipt time would later matter. Detectives drafted two working hypotheses. The first, Marin stepped inside voluntarily. The second, Marin was led inside under a pretext and then restrained. Both required more proof and a match to a manufacturer's code. One quiet device in the room would decide which story survived.
The partial serial on the pocketknife returned a match by noon. The manufacturer traced the batch to a Spokane distributor. The lot shipped on October 10 to Harbor Ridge Hardware on North Division. Store records showed 4 units sold for cash between October 12 and October 18th. One unit came with a promo bundle of fixed-line zip ties. The unopened fixed-line pack in Evans' room carried the same UPC lot. The clerk initialed each cash sale on a carbon pad. His KM appeared beside an October 15th entry at 6:09 p.m. Detectives pulled the store's camera. The system saved stills, not full video. A frame at 6:10 p.m. showed a customer in a dark hoodie paying cash. The face was angled down. The clerk was certain about the transaction time, but not the buyer. The bag in the scene matched the brand of the receipt fragment dated October 27th, found in the bathroom trash. That fragment listed disinfecting wipes and a cleaner with bleach. A traffic camera at 29th and Southeast supplied consistent background. No unfamiliar vehicles lingered near Marin's house from 5:10 to 5:40 p.m. A city parking car with license plate readers passed at 5:31. The scan log captured only known residents and a delivery van. Nothing suggested an outside abduction. That pushed weight back inside the Hart home. A postal carrier recalled greeting Marin at 4:59 near the corner box. He was sure of the time. His scanner pinged a parcel at 4:56. That supported the 4:47 receipt and 5:19 phone ping. The canine track ending at the Hart curb fit the line of travel. Technicians lifted trace from the waterbed screws and recovered blue polyester fibers. Evan wore a navy hoodie in the still frame from Harbor Ridge. That alone proved nothing. It aligned quietly with the room. Lab screening on the knife handle returned a partial mixture, not suitable for comparison. Touch swabs from the zip tie packaging matched Evans' profile. A dust print under the batch showed a recent move. The window track scrape held a small flake of fresh paint. It matched a chip missing from the bat's barrel edge. Detectives flagged a midnight note from a utility worker. Evan took a tied trash bag to the curb on October 29th. He brought it back inside 10 minutes later.
On November 9, 2001, Spokane County filed a first-degree murder charge against Evan Hart. Detectives served a warrant and took him into custody at 6:12 a.m. He did not resist. He asked for a lawyer. The affidavit laid out the sequence: the 5:19 phone ping, the 5:20 motion clip, the 5:28 light flicker, the room, and the items recovered. Prosecutors argued that Marin entered the Hart home and never left alive. They did not describe graphic detail. They focused on time, space, and objects. At arraignment, Evan pled not guilty. The court set no bond. Defense counsel challenged the search of the bedroom. They said consent from Melissa should not cover a sealed scene. The judge upheld the warrant and the seizure.
The court found probable cause based on odor, visible frame damage, and the initial view of a knife. Both sides prepared for a Rule 3.6 hearing on suppression. Pretrial moved quickly. The state disclosed router logs, doorbell clips, the bus still, and the hardware records from Harbor Ridge. They listed the postal carrier, the grocery driver, and the utility worker as witnesses. They added lab reports on paint transfer and trace fibers. The defense filed a motion to exclude the adult content reference from Evans' computer. They said it was prejudicial and not connected to intent. The judge allowed limited mention of a non-work browsing session to explain the device timeline without details. A plea offer was floated, second-degree murder with a long term. The defense asked for manslaughter based on panic and poor judgment. The state declined. The timeline, they said, showed deliberate acts after the initial event. A change in light, a concealed frame, and cleaning supplies were not panic. Venue became an issue. News coverage saturated Spokane. The court granted a change of venue to Yakima County. Jury selection was scheduled for October 2002. The state requested a special verdict form on aggravators. The judge ruled the jury would hear only the charged count and lesser-included offenses. Several items returned from the lab on the eve of trial. One report tied paint from the bat barrel to the fresh scrape in the window track. Another confirmed the UPC lot match for the zip ties. The last pretrial dispute centered on one phrase Evan used in a recorded call.
Jury selection began in Yakima County in October 2002. 12 were seated and sworn. The state opened with a timeline anchored to minutes, not guesses. They described the 519 phone ping, the 520 motion clip, and the 528 light change. They described the upstairs room and each item logged. They told the jury this was not a search case anymore, it was a room case. The defense said panic explained everything that followed. They said an accident during backyard practice escalated in fear and confusion. They said Evan Hart did not plan to kill anyone. They said the smell was pet cages, not concealment. They asked the jury to watch for gaps, not headlines. The grocery driver took the stand first. He repeated his 528 observation of a light turning off, then on. The postal carrier fixed Marin at the corner box at 4:55. A city bus technician authenticated the still of the block at 6:44. Detectives walked the jury through the house. Photos of the misaligned frame, the knife, the bat, and the wipes were admitted without objection. And digital analyst testified next. Router logs showed the desktop idle from 5:17 to 5:43. The audio driver recorded a device change at 5:24. The timestamps matched the motion clip. The court allowed a neutral description of a non-work browsing session to explain windows left open without details. A lab expert tied a flake of paint from the window track to a chip on the bat's barrel. Another matched the UPC lot on the unopened zip ties to a batch sold with the knife line. The medical examiner described blunt and sharp injuries and confirmed a time of death window consistent with 6 days. No graphic descriptions were given. There were no outside drag marks. There were fibers from a Navy windbreaker trapped in screws under the frame. The canine track across the street ended at the Hart curb. The defense pressed chain of custody and the lack of a clean fingerprint. They pointed to mixed touch DNA and a missing motive. They noted no injuries on Evan's hands. They suggested an intruder, a contaminant, a rush to judgment. Evan did not testify. His parents spoke briefly about routine and work schedules. The jury asked only one question about the window latch. After 6 hours, the verdict was guilty of murder in the first degree. The court imposed a life sentence under Washington law. Years later, one redacted line from a recorded call would spark a new hearing.
The years after the verdict did not quiet the case. In 2004, Evan Hart appealed, arguing improper consent and a biased venue. The court affirmed the conviction. The opinion cited the odor, the misaligned frame, and the plain view knife. It found the search lawful and the evidence properly admitted. The sentence stood. In 2016, a public records request produced a fuller transcript of recorded jail calls. One redacted line surfaced. Evan told a friend, "I put it back because they were outside." The defense claimed that line referred to the trash bag noted by a utility worker. They said it showed panic, not planning. The state said the context did not erase the objects in the room. A judge granted an evidentiary hearing in 2018. Detectives testified about the bag, the timeline, and the bleach wipes. The court ruled the new line did not undermine confidence in the verdict. Civil actions followed. Marin's family filed a wrongful death claim against Evan and a separate negligence claim against the Hart's homeowner policy. The policy settled without admission for a confidential sum. The wrongful death claim ended with a default judgment that could not be collected. The result did not move the criminal record. It closed paperwork. A memorial garden went in at Marin's Community College in 2003. Jenna spoke at a scholarship event each spring. She kept the shared calendar page from October 2001 in a clear sleeve. Edward and Renee moved to a smaller place in 2005. They still drove past Lakeview Terrace on holidays. They did not stop. They did not speak to the Harts again. In 2020, Post-Conviction Counsel asked for DNA retesting on the bat and knife with updated methods. The lab found the same partial mixtures and the same limits. No single source print appeared. The court denied relief. In 2022, Evan wrote a letter to the judge. He accepted the verdict, but said he wanted a review someday. Washington law offered none for his sentence. He remained at a state facility in the central region. The file now sits on two shelves: the search that became a room and the room that became a case. What stays unsettled is the motive that never crossed from whisper to proof.